In the year 2077, Mars wasn't just a dream, it was home for millions, a vibrant, thriving colony. But then, on one seemingly ordinary day, the entire planet went silent. Not a distress signal, not a final broadcast, just absolute bone-chilling silence. Billions of dollars, decades of human ingenuity, erased in an instant. What truly happened on Mars in 2077? And why, despite the monumental scale of this catastrophe, does nobody, and I mean nobody, talk about it anymore? To understand this profound and unsettling mystery, we need to rewind. The year 2035 marked humanity's first permanent settlement on the Red Planet. Initial expeditions were arduous, fraught with peril, yet fueled by an unyielding spirit of exploration and a desperate need for expansion. Earth was becoming increasingly overcrowded, resource-strained, and politically volatile. Mars represented not just a new frontier, but a lifeboat, a second chance. The early pioneers, romanticized in history books, carved out a harsh existence, terraforming small, protected biospheres. By 2050, advancements in atmospheric processors and underground city construction had transformed these fragile outposts into burgeoning metropolises. Corporations poured unimaginable wealth into Martian development, sponsoring entire colony ships, each carrying tens of thousands of hopeful settlers. The public back on Earth was captivated. Mars was the ultimate success story, a testament to human resilience and ambition. Children grew up with virtual reality tours of the orbital elevators and the bustling markets of Olympus City. The future, it seemed, was literally out of this world. This initial optimism, this widespread pride, makes the subsequent silence all the more chilling and the current amnesia all the more perplexing. What could possibly be so terrifying that an entire planetary achievement, a cornerstone of human expansion, could effectively be memory hold? By 2077, the Martian population had swelled to over 15 million across three major colony regions: the northern plains of Utopia Planitia, the equatorial megacity of Valles Marineris, and the resource-rich southern pole. Communication with Earth was constant, a digital umbilical cord stretched across the void. News reports, entertainment broadcasts, scientific data, all flowed freely. But beneath the veneer of progress, subtle cracks began to appear. Reports from deep mining operations hinted at anomalous readings, energy signatures that defied known physics, deep within the Martian crust. Early settlers spoke of whispers carried on the solar wind, phantom voices in their comms. These were dismissed as psychological effects of isolation, the vast emptiness of space playing tricks on the mind. Yet as the colonies matured, a strange insularity began to manifest. Martian culture diverged sharply from Earth's. They developed their own customs, their own slang, even their own brand of dry, cynical humor. More troublingly, they began to advocate for greater autonomy, pushing for less oversight from Earth-based regulatory bodies and scientific councils. Mars for Martians became a quiet rallying cry. Communication, while technically open, grew psychologically distant. The direct, unfiltered feeds from citizen journalists on Mars became less frequent, replaced by curated, government-approved content. It was as if a subtle, gradual curtain was descending, slowly severing the emotional connection between the two planets. Then the cryptic messages started appearing in the public feeds, often quickly deleted. Strange symbols, snippets of garbled audio, warnings about the deep or the silence that waits beneath. Were these isolated incidents, or something more sinister? We may never know for sure, because the silence was coming, and it was absolute. The final hours of Martian communication were not a sudden, dramatic explosion of static. It was a slow, agonizing fade. Historians, or rather, the limited few who are still allowed to discuss these events, point to a gradual weakening of the primary orbital relays, initially attributed to solar flares. Then came the white noise incident. For 3 terrifying hours, all transmissions from Mars were replaced by a coherent, rhythmic hum. Not static, but a deliberate, almost musical tone, indescribable yet deeply unnerving. It was global, transmitted concurrently from all colonies, suggesting a coordinated, systematic takeover of their communication infrastructure. Earth poured resources into analyzing the signal, with frantic teams of linguists and cryptographers working around the clock. They found nothing. No discernible patterns, no hidden messages, just the hum. After those 3 hours, the hum abruptly ceased. For a brief moment, there was glorious, clear communication. Distress calls flooded in, but they were not what anyone expected. Not panicked pleas for help, but fragmented, horrifying accounts. One message from Valles Marineris spoke of the city turning in on itself. Another from Utopia Planitia begged Earth not to send help, warning of contamination, of something ancient awake. A final chilling transmission, attributed to a lead scientist from the Southern Pole, simply said, "It's not silence they fear, it's what the silence allows." And then, nothing. Absolute, profound quiet amplified by the emptiness of space. All active sensors on Martian orbiters reported stable environmental conditions. No impacts, no atmospheric collapse, no massive power fluctuations. Yet the entire population, the entire network of human life, had simply vanished, leaving behind only the ghost of a warning and a lingering, resonant hum that still haunts the fringes of deep space radio astronomy. Earth's desperate attempts to establish contact grew increasingly frenzied, their signals bouncing back from a dead planet, echoing a grief and terror that would soon be deliberately, meticulously forgotten. The immediate aftermath on Earth was a global paroxysm of grief and terror. Emergency broadcasts, round-the-clock news coverage, and the somber faces of world leaders dominated every screen. Humanity had lost a foundational part of its future. Rescue missions were hastily assembled, enormous interplanetary vessels loaded with scientific teams, military personnel, and unprecedented medical resources. But not a single one ever reached Mars. Each mission, without fail, experienced catastrophic navigational anomalies or unforeseen system failures within halfway to the red planet. Not crashes specifically, but inexplicable engine shutdowns, critical life support failures, or sudden irreversible course deviations that sent them careening into deep space, never to be heard from again. It was as if Mars itself was actively rejecting any attempt at recontact, shrouded in an invisible, impenetrable barrier. Public fear turned into a suffocating dread. Global governments, in an unprecedented move, collectively decided to classify all information related to Mars 2077. Archival data was systematically deleted, historical records altered, and public discussion actively suppressed. Textbooks were rewritten, omitting the entire era of Martian colonization. News articles, once front-page headlines, vanished from databases. Entire research institutions dedicated to Mars were quietly dismantled. The official narrative eventually settled on an unquantified, non-specific planetary collapse event. A vague tragedy that, by bureaucratic definition, required no further investigation or explanation. The psychological impact on Earth was profound, a collective trauma carefully buried under layers of censorship and historical revisionism. To this day, any casual mention of Mars 2077 is met with blank stares, confusion, or a swift, uncomfortable change of subject. The official story is simple. Mars was too expensive, too dangerous, and colonization efforts were quietly abandoned. A convenient lie designed to erase not just a planet's worth of people, but the terrifying implications of their disappearance. What happened on Mars in 2077? Why the silence? We may never truly know the truth, but one thing is clear. Whatever happened was so horrifying, so utterly beyond our comprehension, that humanity chose to forget it entirely, rather than face the terrible reality that something out there, something beneath the Martian surface is still waiting, quietly, patiently, for the next unsuspecting planet.